Welcome back to the Steelers chat. Another week of fun-filled Steelers commentary here. Today I have Nick Farabaugh from Steelers Now. What's up, man?
How you doing, D? I always love coming on the show, of course. And
Good.
this week it's gonna be a fun week. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Jaguars coming to Pittsburgh, probably their biggest match for the season to this point. So I'm looking forward to it, and certainly the theatrics have come this week. We'll say that there have been
Yeah.
theatrics.
But we have a lot to talk about as it leads up to Sunday's game, but we'll go backwards as we always do first and talk about LA. You were in LA, so you saw from a media perspective what all that was going on and got to talk to the team afterwards. What did you think about that game? Because I came into that game feeling like we were going to win that game, feeling that Aaron Donald wasn't going to be a factor, feeling that either Cooper Cup or Puka Nacua was going to have a game, but not both of them. And I kind of checked out all my boxes minus a Darnell Washington catch.
Yeah, I thought that game was interesting because it felt like the best game they've played since Las Vegas to me.
Mhm.
Um, right, they beat Baltimore, but we all know, that was kind of fluky with how many drops Baltimore had, and they didn't really impose their will on Baltimore. I thought that second half they really outplayed Los Angeles, and I thought that was pretty nice to see. The offense, especially Deontay, is a huge weapon that they really needed. I think that became very clear, just how much he cleared up for GP. George Pickens on the other side. Pickens was eating all day, and then Deontay was kind of feeding off that. And I thought that really helped them. And then the run game got going with Najee and Jalen. I thought it really helped them. I thought the defense still has its cracks. I think the secondary is still a huge issue for them. But Joey is I think starting to really get himself into that starting role. In fact, I think he's going to start moving forward. So I think that's good news for them. So I think they have a corner now they can rely upon. So I think Joey's playing well. I thought this was honestly not even a great game from TJ. Like I didn't think TJ played that well in this game outside of his pick. Right? Didn't really
And
get to
coverage.
Stafford. Like I think it was Highsmith more getting to Stafford or at least pressuring him and doing different things there. But I thought it was encouraging. I still want to see him play a fuller game, right? I want to see him play bell to bell. I want to see him start fast. I want to see him end strong. But there's no doubt about it. I don't know what it is about this team, but they love the fourth quarter. Kenny Pickett loves the fourth quarter. So I don't know, but they pulled it out. Now they're 4-2. And this is going to be a real litmus test this week. So let's they beat an average Rams team, that has talent with the Stafford, Cup, and Nakua and Donald. He's high end talent, but doesn't really have a deep roster talent. Jacksonville's a little different. Maybe
Mhm.
not having the superstars that a Los Angeles Rams had in Aaron Donald, but they have a lot of really solid players across the board. So I'm kind of interested to see how this plays out.
Yeah, and they scored 24 points, which is rare. Let's be honest. 24 points, 3 touchdowns. We haven't seen it in a while, so that was you haven't. I'll say we haven't seen it consistently, and they're gonna need that going into this matchup because this Jaguars teams, if I'm right, they're like almost averaging 25 points a game. So again, 21 is like the number they have to score over 20 points. But you're right. You're absolutely right with what you saw from TJ or what you didn't see from TJ. It Alex Highsmith has probably been the most consistent guy on this team, on especially on defense. With regards to Minka Fitzpatrick, like we'll get to that in a little bit. I don't strikes a nerve a little bit for me, but Alex Highsmith, I mean, he's even in the Texan game, just was just inches away from making the play on the QB, and I just feel like he is just playing at such a high level. I'm not taking anything away from TJ Watt, but I just feel like he's just been so consistent of how ability to get to the quarterback, even though you can see him being held up and hung by his neck, by his neck sometimes.
Yeah, Alex has been awesome. Like he has a deeper bag than TJ, I think, which
Mm.
is weird to say because it's like, oh, TJ Watt's this elite player, and he is, but like I think Alex has more moves. TJ just is more dominant with the moves he has. But Alex has been awesome. Hasn't really turned all of the pressures into sacks. I think that's the big thing, right? When we
Right.
talk about like, okay, he only has 2 sacks. Well, both those are strip sacks, but he's gotten a ton of pressures every game. Like he's always
Yeah.
around the quarterback. Like I think that's the big thing with him is he has been a monster in terms of creating pressure off the edge, and so teams have to really worry about him. Like Alex Highsmith is a legit guy. Like I don't think he's a TJ product. Like TJ got hurt tomorrow, I do feel like Highsmith could still get to the quarterback. I really do. He's
We
got
saw
so
that
many
last.
moves. He's got so many different things. Like I love what Alex Highsmith is doing this year. I think he's playing the best football of his career. Even after last year where he had those 14 and a half sacks, like he's playing at such a high level right now. And you know how good the Steelers front is with
Mm-hmm.
their D line and even without Cam. But when Cam gets back, I think that's going to even open up more for Alex Highsmith because
Yeah.
right now he's the guy they're trying to stop besides TJ. But when Cam comes back, you either let Cam eat or you let Highsmith eat. And so, I mean, I really believe this when Cam comes back, if they can, kind of tweak the rotation a little bit, get some guys playing at just little bit of a better level, like they have started to, like Larry O and Mon
Mm-hmm.
Adams. I think this has the potential to be the best front in football. We'll see.
Well, they still struggle with the run, but I'll go back to what the outside linebackers and the switching of them. We saw TJ playing on the opposite side a little bit. We saw Nick Herbert come in and he got his first sack of the game. Do you think they're planning? And I read that they're planning to do more switching and having him go back in coverage more and switching sides and things. Do you think that helps? Does that help the defense or does it help just to create frustration or confusion with the offense?
I think it helps because, like, listen, right? This defense is a group that has a lot of different skill sets that fit into different roles. For example, with the linebackers, Quan's a really good coverage guy. Cole is kind of the three down guy, and Elandon is this thumper guy, right? So like they fit each other really well. You just got to use them correctly. When I was talking about the D line, like I think they're using Larry O a little bit too much. I'd like him
Mm,
more in like shorter spurts. I'm not talking about like he's playing like 55 snaps a game right now. Like cut that by 15, get him to 40, and I feel like you're going to have more productive. Give those 15 to guys like Keanu Benton, who I think is
Benton.
just playing so well right now. Benton
Yes.
honestly has been their best defensive lineman without Cam, and so I'd like to see him more. Mon Adams is really starting to come into his own, but they have different guys that work off each other, right? Leal's a really good run defender. Keanu Benton's more of this kind of all around guy. When you have Larry, he's kind of this flashy guy when you can get him fresh. So they have guys that can work off each other. Same thing at the edge, right? Where you have Herbig that can come off. Marcus Golden's a little different,
Yep.
right? Golden's not this athlete that the other three are, but he's a really good run defender and he's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing in safety,
Tackle.
right?
Yeah,
He's
so
easy in.
I worry about the run game. We know the Jaguars, ETN, he's been monster. He's been really really good at running, and the guy leading the team in tackles is of course Minka Fitzpatrick. I have a big issue with it. We know where he's playing and why he's getting the tackles, but how do we? I really want him more in coverage. I want him in situations where he can intercept the ball, where he can create confusion for a QB. What do you think the solution is to get him from playing in the box and being the guy leading the team in tackles?
Well, I think Minka is in a tough spot because I'm going to be real with you. I don't think they have great talent with him in that secondary.
Yeah.
Levi has really struggled this year. Pat is a guy that is just getting older, doesn't have the speed he used to. I liked what he did in the slot against the Rams, so I'd like
To
him
see
there.
more of that.
Yeah, I want to see him more there. But even if you put Joey out there, who's going to play? Levi still, Darius Rush maybe, James Pierre. I don't know. That's why I trade for a corner. I think makes a lot of sense. But Minka is kind of covering up for a lot of these deficiencies on the outside because they're not a good tackling DB group outside of him. So he's going to have to help in that run defense. And so Travis Etienne, for example, presents a very, very big challenge because we're talking about a guy in Etienne that is explosive, can hit the home run. He is a speedy guy that is powerful. Like he is a guy that breaks tackles at ease. I think against the Texans, I want to say it might be the Texans or the Bills. I can't remember which game. He broke 11 tackles in that game. That's the highest
Mm,
of any running back this year.
wow.
He is, to me, he is the most underrated running back in the NFL right now. I love Travis Etienne's game. Good, solid pass protector. He's really grown. He can be a receiver out of the backfield that puts you on linebackers. Like he's a very dangerous weapon. I think he's enemy number one personally in this game.
Hmm. Hmm.
I just think with how the run defense has looked, against guys like Darrell Henderson and Royce Freeman last week, where they were getting gashed.
Yeah.
I
Guys, we didn't even know their names. I'm like, I don't even know the running back core for the Rams, but
yeah,
they were
right.
putting up numbers, so you got familiar.
And like, listen, I mean, Kyron Williams was out, and those guys still had a big game. And even when Nick Chubb went down, Jerome Ford comes in and has a big game for the Browns. It hasn't really mattered who's been back there. They've been able to slow down a few teams. The Raiders mainly, they were able to slow down, and I also thought they actually slowed down Lamar and that Ravens running game in that
In the
second
second
half.
half.
But
Yeah.
right, like Dameon Pierce, Christian McCaffrey, before he got hurt, Nick Chubb was absolutely shredding them on the
Mm-hmm.
ground. And this past week, I mean, they really didn't have an answer for that running game. And I don't know that you can confidently say how they're going to stop ETN because they're not a great tackling group. And he is the most explosive running back they have faced in
Yeah.
terms of just vertical explosiveness. I mean, we're talking about a team last week that allowed 4.4 yards per carry to Royce Freeman and Darrell Henderson. And Freeman in particular had 12 rushes for 66 yards. So it's tough for me to fully embrace this run defense, but they're going to
Are
have
they
the best game
talking
of the
about
year.
that? Like, are they bringing it up? Are they adjusting it with the media, saying like, what's going on with the run game? Like, why can't you guys stop the run? What are you doing to get better at this? Is anyone talking about that?
I think a big part of it is tackling. I think they need to
Mm-hmm.
get better at tackling in the open field. I think their DBs are a big part of this because teams are gashing into them to the perimeter outside the tackles. So they're feeding off TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith's aggressiveness, and they're kind of using it against them. And they're getting outside. And so you're putting guys like Pat Pete and Levi Wallace in tough spots and Joey where they have to tackle, right? So that's tough because the DBs haven't tackled well. So I think that's really what the Texans did when they ran all over them that week and what they were able to do to those corners. So I think they got to tackle better. I think the D line has to have a better rotation. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't think they're maximizing their defensive line rotation. As I said, I want to see more Keanu Bent. Like I think he played 19 snaps against the Rams. Like makes no sense. He played 37 or something against the Ravens. Took a step back. I mean that doesn't make any sense to me. He's been so good. Liao is a really good run defender. If you're facing a really run heavy team, like I want to see more Liao. Want to see a little less Larry because he's banged up now. And again, I just think Larry's better in short spurts with this flashy type of player. And then you have Mon Adams, who I think is playing nose, but is probably better out as a 3 tech or a 5
Mm-hmm.
tech. So I think Mon is being used a little bit wrong. So I would like to see them do some different things here. They do need just to be better gap discipline wise, communication and all that. But I think there are easy fixes to some of these things, and I think this has to be the week they have to do it because if ETN gets going, it's tough. But the Jaguars do have a tendency to where ETN can rip off 20 yards, and then for some reason they throw it 3 times, and then the drive is over. It's a very
Yeah.
odd group. Sometimes Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator for the Jaguars, to me has some odd play calling tendencies. So we'll see if he rides the ETN wave this week. I even thought McVay got a little bit away from
From the
running the
run.
ball
Yeah.
too
Don't
much.
do that against the Steelers. Just don't do that. Run component that we have to account for is also Trevor Lawrence. He's number 2 with the team in rushing behind ETN. So I think we did great with Lamar. I think that was probably our most difficult. Um, that I'm going through that our most mobile quarterback that we played, and I think we managed Lamar pretty well because he didn't rush that much. But Trevor Lawrence might actually be a factor.
He is going to be a factor. He's a good runner. He's very athletic. I don't think people realize it. Sometimes I feel like he doesn't live in a world where he likes to use his legs a lot. But he can scramble. They use some read option stuff with him, especially in the red zone. He's a big dude. I think he's maybe the tallest quarterback in the NFL. I mean, he's a big dude that can run. He's hard to bring down. Now I know he's dealing with that knee injury, but 10 days
Yeah.
off from Thursday night. He says he's going to be wearing a knee brace, so we'll see. But honestly, on Thursday night when he was running, I thought he looked just fine. So I think this is going to be tough where they're going to have to at least, know where he is, right? ETN on those dives is going to be a big thing, but he can pull it back and get 10, 12, 13 yards. He's not going to hit you at the home run speed like Lamar will,
Right.
but he can run. And so that'll be, I think, a big thing. I think it'll be big down in the red zone, particularly where he can get those tough yards. So we'll see what they do with Trevor Lawrence. Really good quarterback to me. I like him. I don't think he's going to scramble a lot when he's just dropping back to pass. It's not what he loves to do. Like, he's not a creator. He can do that. And you see flashes of, the out of pocket ability, making throws, running, whatever. He kind of likes to live in the pocket, get the ball out quickly. They really, the Jaguars are very similar to the Rams in a lot of ways, where they get the ball out quick. They run a lot, gap scheme stuff. So it's not that different from what the Rams do. So it's kind of interesting, the stylistic comparisons there. But Lawrence, obviously a better runner of the football than Stafford.
I'm excited. There were a couple of new guys out there on the field at the cornerback position. What did you see today from the new guys that might be lacing them up? Might be in a sweatsuit this week.
Yeah, the injuries are really racking up for this team, man. Levi has a foot injury. Joey Porter Jr. obviously has the calf. And James Pierre's banged up. That's the new guy that is going to be added to this injury report today on Friday. And this is why you were hearing about Luke Barku and Darius Rush. So I think they are in a tough spot because they are facing a really solid group of receivers. Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley are really two good players. So Rush and Barku are going to be in tough spots if they have to play. I will say, here's good news. I think Joey will suit up. Levi, I think, is a little bit more questionable. I haven't been able to get a read on Levi. He was out there today, but not in full. And so I think Joey is going to get the start. I think Pat Pete will get the start. Shannon Sullivan is fully healthy. He'll start. But we could see Darius Rush play, I think, in those sub packages. In Joey's role, what it was formerly, right? If Levi can't play. And that presents interesting matchups just because Rush is a guy that has not been here long. What, a week and a half?
Just maybe got here. Just got here. Yep, just picked him up.
So, he's a rookie too. He's not a vet. So we're talking about a guy that came in a week, and I think literally he came in 9 days ago today. So
back on the signals. This is like my favorite defense.
Yeah, right. Signal. So I don't know what it means. He's going to have to rely on guys like Minka and Pat Pete and KZ and those guys that are vets that know this playbook, that can help him get the speed if he has to play. I think the corners against this Jaguars receiving group is a huge mismatch. And so, I do think we are going to have a game here soon where this secondary is going to catch up to the Steelers. It could be this one. This is not a great secondary on paper. And with the injuries, even more so. And it's, I like what Joey's done, but is Joey 100% with the calf? And, how is he going to hold up?
And they're going to target him. We know that.
Yeah. They're going to target him. Yeah. He's going to play, but it's going to be like, okay, you're playing, but like, are you really Joey? Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to see that. I think it's going to be a tough game for them, man. I really do. They don't match up well against this group. So we'll see kind of where it stands. I'm interested to see what Rush can do if he plays, though, and same with Barku. So we'll see. These are aggressive guys that are probably pretty good tacklers. They like to stick their nose in the fan. They're different type of players than the top guys are, which offers intriguing possibilities to me. But we will see about this secondary. And I really do think by the time 4:00 on October 31st rolls around, there will be a new quarterback on this team. That's what I will say.
Yeah. So I'm going to get to that too. And the other thing was there's been a lot of trash talk. So I want to talk about the trash talk and then we'll get to the trade stuff. What have you heard? Of course, there's the George Pickens saying the Hope situation. Then there's Joey Porter talking about Calvin Ridley's stats are going to look like him when he was suspended last season. What do you think of this trash talk? Like, these are the young guys. I don't know if there's been more that I just missed, and that's fine. But what do you think of the young guys on the team? Talking trash about their opponent, this week's opponent.
I don't know. It's interesting. It is what it is. George Pickens is just that guy. That's kind of who he is. He has that swagger to him. So him not talking trash is not being George Pickens, right? When he doesn't talk trash and when things aren't going his way is when you usually see the stuff on the sideline or something, right?
Mhm.
He's just an emotional football player. That's fine. There are emotional football players. There are ways to channel that, and he'll probably learn that. But listen, the trash talk is what it is.
Yeah.
The Jaguars have thrown some of theirs that his way too. This is a matchup to me that is going to be emotional. You're kind of getting the vibes of a big game for both these teams, right? The Jags on 4 straight. The Steelers trying to make a statement at home. Like, it's a big game, and so you're going to see some of this trash talk, and it is what it is. I think it ups the
Yeah.
ante a little bit. I don't think it changes much, of course, but I'm fine with the guys talking a little trash.
I
I like.
love it, especially because if you are a beast at like for George and Joey has been, although he hasn't played a whole lot, but his body of work is out there. He's been successful when he's been out there, minus, some tackles or whatever. George Pickens, we know what he can do. He's spectacular. He makes amazing catches. So individually, I think you've earned the right to talk trash. I think people struggle with team wise, collectively as a unit. Like, you can't talk trash. Like, no, I can, because I know I can beat this guy, or whoever's in front of me. So I love it. I think it's healthy. So now we get down to the nasty grittiness of the trade deadline coming up next week, the 31st. And I have my guy that I would use as trade bait. He's actually just not healthy. So I don't know how much bait he would be. But I want to know, what are some of the things you're thinking?
I mean, listen, when you are not fully healthy,
Yeah.
menu shrinks a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I guess we'll kind of see on that.
Yeah.
I think it remains to be seen, but like, we have seen this with the Steelers, where if you're not 100%, you're not going to be a full go. It kind of is what it is, and other teams embrace that too. But I look at like a Deontay with his hamstring last week, like, not fully back, right? Played well, but didn't like do the full things. Same thing with this secondary. Like, all these guys that are banged up, you're going to have to shorten some menus and shorten some things. And so it kind of just is what it is. The
Mhm.
Steelers like are pretty banged up this
In
week. And
general.
so
Yeah.
we'll see. I think we're going to see some different rotations, some different looks, and that'll obviously test their depth and ability, but we'll see.
So, just to put it out there, I don't know. This looks weird now again because this guy is hurt, but I have Pat Fryermuth, and I love Pat Fryermuth. I love Pat Fryermuth. I want to state that loud and clear. I love him, and I would love to keep him, even though he is injured. He's on IR, but he would have been the best trade candidate to see what you could reel in, for some teams.
Yeah, I think he could be interesting. For me, I would just not be looking to trade anybody. Probably, I'd be looking to trade picks.
Picks,
Um,
not people. But yeah, if Pat was healthy, I felt like if
he could be interesting, right?
that would be interesting on the phone. Like, I want to know what Omar's doing, what kind of calls they're making. But yes, we do have picks. But he would probably be the one guy, if you're not going to pay him, or you're not going to give him not just pay him, give him the guaranteed money. If you know you're not going to already do that, then go ahead and figure out what you can get for him.
Yeah, I find that to be kind of a like Fryermuth, for example, is a guy that definitely adds to the offense, but is not fully ingrained in the offense right now. He's not having a great year. He's been pretty mediocre as a blocker, like, been productive though. Could get you some stuff. Like, if you're talking about like trade candidates that could be intriguing, that can get you stuff like him, Dan Moore, Najee, even, like, these are guys that you could trade that I probably wouldn't trade, but could probably get you something of value.
Mhm.
I mean, you could trade Levi Wallace or one of these corners for like a 7th round pick or something, or maybe a player swap. But what you're probably going to end up doing is, you're probably trading a 5th or a 4th or something like that to go get some corner or whatever. Player wise, Muth, I think, is a guy that they would like to keep long term. And I think that's the difference. I don't think this is like a Claypool situation where they'd kind of
Mhm.
start to shift off Chase Claypool and had kind of been growing a little bit restless with his locker room antics and his lackluster play on the field, and they were kind of done with it and ready to move on, if they got the right offer. Like, I don't feel like Muth is that way. I really don't feel like that's this way with any team, with anybody on this team right now. So, I mean, we'll see. And plus, they should be getting healthier soon. I mean, Muth
Yeah.
obviously is out until November at least 19th against the Browns. Cam Hayward is now in the window. I expect him to probably be back against the Packers. I think they're pushing it for the Titans with that. Maybe he like plays on a snap count or something against the Titans, but
Yeah.
I would lean
Not in
more.
a hurry. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't rush it.
Mhm.
Cam's older and make sure he's 100% for the home stretch. So we'll see. I think for their trades though, maybe they trade somebody that is not playing well, like a Levi Wallace or something like that. But probably a new guy coming in that could supplant someone like Levi Wallace would make sense.
Yeah, so I mean that was just my one little take on that, but I've been thinking it for a while just because of the production wise in the offense, and who knows what goes through Amar. I always thought Pat was going to be there long term, but then when you look at the T.J. Hawkinson Pat deal, and I mean I know his production is nowhere near that because he's not playing, so he has to probably settle for a significant amount less. So I was just like, maybe maybe they'll figure something out. But I do see Pat, like you said, as a long term person. But he would be the one I would put on a hook and just to see like who would bite. But
Yeah.
all that being said, I do want to talk about last week one more time before we wrap things up because there was some magic in that building. I don't know if you heard, but Troy Polamalu was in the building. I'm sure you saw at some point. And Troy never comes out. Like he don't come outside, doesn't come to the games. Like I think the last time he came to the game, he was like getting honored at the game. So how did that make you feel some type of way knowing that Troy was in the building? Because I was like ecstatic. He walked right by me, and I was just like
Yeah,
what?
it wasn't just him, right? I mean,
Yeah,
Joe Hayden was there,
Joe Hayden, yeah.
Farrier was there, like a lot of guys. Lev Bell, I guess, was there too because he was at the tailgate. So, but like Troy is like a different guy, right? Like he is
Yeah.
a mystical player. So to me, I would look at Troy in the building and be like, yo, you can't lose this one, right? Like,
Right.
it's gonna be similar this weekend. Like Debo's in the building. Like you can't lose when Debo's in the building. Like when Troy's
Right.
in the building, like you can't lose because the guy is a legend in terms of modern Steelers. Like he is the quintessential guy. Like even if Ben is the franchise quarterback and everything, like Troy represents that golden era, right? Like Troy
Freaking
is the golden era.
Troy.
Like it's Troy. Like I don't know how to say it other than that. Like he does have that mystical kind of feeling about him, and so
Mhm.
yeah, I mean it is absolutely a boost for you. And I'm sure it was a boost when Cam saw his former teammate. And that's crazy when you think about it. Like that's how long Cam has been around. Like Troy was still here
Troy,
and
yes.
all of that. Cam has really played with all the guys, played with Kiesel, like played with Debo. That's the thing about that. But yeah, everyone knows who Troy is. Minka certainly knows Troy's in the building, right? Like I got to play well.
Yeah, man. I could not believe it. I mean, Joe Hayden, he of course he lives in California, so it was like a given. I felt that way. But even his energy, we were actually in like the little lounge area watching the TJ Watt interception on the television together. And we're like, oh, we're going nuts and just seeing his energy and his presence and just him being so excited. And at the end of the game, Deontay Johnson giving him his jersey, his game worn jersey, was just so awesome. But I still cannot believe Troy Polamalu was in that building watching that team. And man, I can't. I don't know. I think I'm not starstruck about a lot of people, but Troy Polamalu, he's one of those people. So I'm
He
glad they pulled off a W.
Listen, he's like Troy is just one of those guys. Again, he just has that aura. Like
He
some
does.
guys just have a different feel to them, and he's one of them. Like for good reason. Not even a guy that was ever vocal, but an absolute class act. One of
Mhm.
the craziest players you'll ever see on the football
Yeah,
field. Like he is the legendary Steeler of this generation. Like that is him.
he
And so
turns
when
it
he's in the
on.
building, and by the way, I mean, I think, I believe that the Steelers announced that Ferrier and Hayden would be there before because I believe they did some event on
Yeah.
Saturday,
Hmm.
um, a fan event. And so they were there. So kind of knew that. I didn't know Troy was going to show up. Like, I mean, I thought there was a possibility he might show up, right? But remember how long he was away from the
A
organization too
long
until
time. Like,
right.
when I tell you, you have like seeing Troy on the sideline is oh no, Steelers sideline is so rare. When he
Like
got honored in Pittsburgh, you saw him that cold night. He walked in, did the halftime thing, and then off into the sunset. You didn't see Troy again, and he just, I don't know.
yeah, I mean,
It's just
like listen, he is a guy that was like a huge thing for like so
Mhm.
long that Troy, you know, had not been at Acrisure Stadium or in Pittsburgh for so long. Um,
Mhm.
and I just think, when he returned, that like signaled something to everyone.
Yeah.
And that is something that you really can't put a price on when Troy,
No,
comes back and like listen, when we are talking about 2017, 2018, when the Killer Bees were going, like Troy was never around, and
mm-mm.
now that he is around, this is a guy that at this point you're like, dude, I mean, legendary, right?
Mhm.
Legendary player. More importantly, when he returned in 2021, it just signaled that they had mended that fence. And
Yeah.
now, like, listen, they didn't even probably invite him. He was just like, "Hey guys, can I like
You
come
in
up?
the
Like,
yeah, you in the
live in
area.
San Diego, right? Like, I want to come see the Steelers in LA." He'll probably also be there for alumni weekend this year, I'm sure. He's been
Mhm.
there the past 2 years now, so
I
that's
love
a
it.
weekly thing. Like Troy is now going out of his way just to see the Steelers play whenever they're close, and I think that means something when guys come back. And I've always thought that's something about the Steelers that they have done really well. A lot of their fraternity have come back a lot. Santonio Holmes is around the team like every
All
few
the
weeks.
time. Like, you could see
Like
him walking down the
he's
street, like,
everywhere.
he's always there, and
But like
I don't think people recognize him half the time. He's just
even all the older Steelers, right? Mel Blunt's at like
Ike
every single game.
yeah,
Dean
Mel
Joe,
Blunt's still there, you see Ike Taylor, I think he still works for the
yeah,
team.
he does. Merrill
Um,
Hodge is around. Jerome Bettis is always there. Like all these guys. Ben is now around the team a lot. Like all of these guys are around the team. Like today at the facility, Tyson Alualu came by. Like all of
he's
these guys.
he's Tyson's in the stands, he watches the game in the stands, he's there
Yeah,
with his family, as if, like, his family was always there when he was there, but he just sits in the stands and watches the game like a regular
yeah.
person. I
Like
love
like it like it's really cool to see all these guys just come back,
it.
and
Mhm.
the Steelers do it at a lot higher level than a lot of these other teams do, where they just really engage these guys. Guys just fly into Pittsburgh to go to these games. I know there are some guys that live in Pittsburgh, like Mel Blunt lives there, and
Yeah.
Tyson still lives there, and
Mhm.
Jerome though lives in Atlanta. Like he comes into
Oh,
Pittsburgh
wow.
to see them, and like all of these different guys kind of come by and really embrace this tradition. Santonio Holmes doesn't live in Pittsburgh. Like he's a guy that comes by all the time. Like Franco, of course, when he was, around, I mean, he was like the immortal guy, like all the way, always
Always
around.
there.
Ben's still in Pittsburgh. Like he's around the team. He'll come to the facility a lot. Like they have these guys, and Troy was like that missing piece, right? Like
Mhm.
before he came back, like everyone was just like, well, okay, you got everyone here basically. You got Ike, you got Ben, you got Tone, you got Hines, you got Bettis, like you got all of those guys, all of them. Debo, Woodley, all those guys have been around. And then there's just not Troy. And now, Troy is willingly going to these games
Yeah.
now. And so it's pretty awesome to see that, Troy is now just going to Steelers games because he wants to go.
Yes.
I think that's the cool thing about it. Like he is just, okay, the Steelers are 2 hours away in LA. He doesn't have to come up on a Sunday and go see them, but the fact that he
Yeah.
did obviously
That's
is
so
is
awesome.
pretty
I'm
huge.
glad someone else is excited about it. Like, it was mind-boggling when I was like, "That's." I was speechless. Luckily I had my phone out, but I didn't say a word. I couldn't like mouth words. So it was awesome. But do you have a score prediction for the game?
I do. I like the Jags in this one.
Uh-huh.
I do. I've talked about it. I just like I think the Steelers offense has a chance to do some things in this one. I think they might be taking steps forward. I feel a little bit better about where they are, but I mean the defense is really in a tough spot. And as I said, at some point, the secondary is going to catch up to them again. and I think they're going to make a move. But this week, I think they're in a tough spot with all the injuries on top of that. So you look at it, and I'm not completely sure they're going to be able to stop Trevor Lawrence in this group. So I'll take the Jaguars here. I'll take them 28-24 or something like that. I think the offense is going to be able to do some things. Like the Jaguars have a solid defense. It's not star-studded, but it's a solid group. But I do think that they have some matchups they can exploit. So I do think the offense has a chance to do some things, but I just really think the defense is a little undermanned. And they have a glaring issue to where they got to fix it. Like they got to fix the corner. I mean,
They do.
If they're serious about competing this year, they need a corner. And so they got to get someone. And I just don't think that guy is on this field right now. And listen, I know Levi Wallace hasn't played that well, but Joey Porter Jr. is now listed as questionable along with Levi Wallace and James Pierre. Like, okay, even if Joey plays, which we expect him to because he said so.
What percentage is he healthy?
Right? Like I feel like Joey is 95% going to play. Levi and Pierre, I have no clue if they're going to play. So if you're missing those guys, right? Your top two corners are Joey and Pat, but your number three, Shannon Sullivan, is your slot, but Darius Rush is going to come in and have to play. It's just tough to throw those young guys in.
And James Pierre is a special teams guy. People don't think about that. He's a solid on special teams. So
yeah, it's tough. So
Rush. We didn't get to talk about offense, and so that means you have to come back so we can do another episode and talk about this offense. We spent a lot of time on defense, which is great because they have some glaring issues there. But please let everyone know where they can find you online so they can follow you and get all the latest and greatest information on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Farabaugh FB. Make sure to check that out. ReadSteelersNow.com. Do all that good stuff. We deliver in the goods every day.
Yes, always on the scene, always giving you the latest and greatest information. So please go follow my friend over here, okay? But thank you so much for coming on, man. And I'll see you in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you'll see me in Pittsburgh.
All right, go Steelers.